again, YouTubers and weavers. I'm setting up the loom to do another project. I didn't show you, I'm not showing you the measuring of the warp or the threading of the heddles or the winding on. I've passed that. But I'm going to give you a little look at slaying the reed. I'm using that same method that I did couple of videos ago, maybe 5 or 6 videos ago, where I've got it laid down. Anyways, you'll see it in a second. This project is with 8-2 cotton for the warp in, I think it's natural, but it looks like white to me. 512 threads of warp. I'm using a 12 dent reed, and I'm threading 18 ends per inch. So that means in one dent I have 2 threads, in the next dent I have 1 thread, then 2, then 1, then 2, then 1, etc., 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 all the way across the reed, except the very couple outside ones, because I know there's always a little bit of drawing at the very edges. I'm doing 2 dents in a row of just 1 thread. So that's the project from the point of view of setting up the warp. Oh, and there's 6 yards of 8-2 cotton. My goal is to do Overshot this time. Just a second, I'm going to go get the book. I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, I'm back with the book. A Handweavers pattern book by Marguerite P Davison. Everybody calls this the green book. I still have the paper cover on it, so I think of it as yellow, but it's got green there. And if you look there at the actual book cover, the hard cover, it is a green book. So I'm doing the pattern on page 166. There's 2 patterns shown there. I'm doing the top one called Wandering Vine. That's this one. I'm not going to actually publish the complete pattern for you to look at because it is copyrighted in the book. I think I can safely show you this because I don't think it'll show up enough that you could work from it. But you get the idea. And I've enlarged it using the Tempo Weave software so I get a much better idea of what it's going to look like. Here, the paper cover came off. Here's why they call it the green book. Anyways, it's been a couple years since I did an overshot, and I just thought, gee, that it'd be kind of fun to do one again. I've done a bunch of prayer shawls for church. They were just plain weave using variegated yarn, you know, so to get some color in the pattern, but I just kind of felt like I wanted to do an overshot. And I was just paging through the book trying to say what looks like fun, and that one I think has some potential to be pretty fun to do. So that's what I'm doing. Let's aim the camera down and show you a little bit of the slaying of the reed, and then I'll probably set the camera aside for a day or 2 until I actually start weaving. But you'll see more of that in a little bit. From your point of view, it'll probably be a couple minutes. From mine, it'll be a couple days. Okay, next batch of threads. These batches are basically approximately an inch worth. There should be 18 in here if I counted correctly. And again, nobody's saying I really counted correctly. So I've got one left over from the last one, And this next dent needs 2, so we'll grab one. Grab the handy dandy little knife. That's a 2. Now we'll do a 1. A little bit harder to go through the dents here, only because they're narrower and it's harder for me to get the knife to come up in the right place from underneath. There we go, there's a 2. Now we'll grab a 1. Where's that 1? Now let's find a 2. You can see I've got 2 threads. Hopefully you can see that. I'll spread them out a little bit so you can see better. 2 threads. 1 thread. 2 threads. 1 thread. 2 threads. 1 thread. And 2 threads. Set this guy up above, push this back, grab all these and pull them through, and just give them a quick comb out. Be sure nothing got doubled up or something stupid. And now I'll just tie a knot, just a slip knot for now. There we go. 1 more inch worth done. I've got, I'm a little over halfway. It's going to be about 28 inches, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 11 more inches to go. Well, gang, I have finished slaying the reed. And if you remember, I put this little slip knot in there. So I've done about half these. I'm going to go through. I'm at this point, I'm working from the far side away from you toward the near side to you on the loom. I'm taking each of these little bundles, which is approximately an inch worth, and untying the slip knot. I give it a little comb out just to be sure that I have got everything nice and straight. Pull this toward me, and I'm just shifting the heddles over so it's a fairly straight shot through. And now back here, right about even with where the beater, not where the beater bar, the breast beam is, I'm going to tie just a single overhand knot and bring it back so that that knot sits right about here even with the breast beam, even though that's just kind of laying there. Do that again with the next batch. Comb it out, tie a single overhand knot, slip it back to right about there. What that will do for me eventually is I've got all of them tied at approximately the same length, and now I can lash on to this little rod here, the wooden stick. So I will end up with that. I have always thought that people who tie on and leave 5 or 6 inches worth of thread at each knot, you know, they bring up this bar and they come around like this, then they break this guy in half and they tie, and they're wasting an extra 6 inches of warp. And let's face it, this, whatever you're making, the warp threads are expensive. So why waste 6 inches out of each one of them? 6 inches out of each one of 512 threads is 500. It's a lot of thread. don't ask me to 6 times 5 is 30. So what is that, 300 inches? No, 3,000 inches probably. That's a lot of thread, even if it's only 300. Don't try and check my math. I fully admit I'm not great at arithmetic. But that's one of the reasons why I prefer to do lashing on rather than tying on. So the other thing is I think by adjusting the warp, you can see that when I do that with lashing, I think I can get a better adjustment of my tension. I still have, you can't, maybe you can't see it right there. There's a little stopper so that I can't pull the beater bar all the way forward. While I'm working with this, I don't want to have it come all the way forward. I don't want to take a chance of something, of one of these warp threads slipping back out through the reed. So, anyways, this is the stage that I have reached, getting close to where I'll actually be able to do some weaving, although I still have to go down there underneath and retie up the treadles. So that's a pain that I think I've told you many times I don't enjoy doing. It's probably my single biggest complaint about the looms is that I find working under them to be a pain in the shoulder. And a few of you may be aware that one of the reasons I say a pain in the shoulder is because I've had arthritis in my shoulders in such a bad way that actually one of my shoulders has had complete shoulder replacement surgery. That was a number of years ago, but I still don't like working underneath there. The other shoulder's got arthritis, but it's not quite as bad. Anyways, that's enough for now. I'm gonna finish this up, and then probably the next step will be to crawl under, and I don't think I'll video that. Okay, gang, I'm about halfway done with the first part of lashing on. The first part is just doing the lashing. The second part, of course, is going to be evening up the tension. But this is just lashing. You know, there's been people have told me in other videos that I ought to get something to put this piece of string on. I want to say it's a thing for a net making, a fishing net sewing, I want to say device, but it's not, well, it's a device, yeah, but it's got a special name and I can't remember it. So I still do it the old-fashioned way, which is to just use my fingers. So we're just going around this wooden bar, then up through the middle of each bout of threads. And pull relatively tight. It's not exactly tight. The whole thing's got to be tensioned more, but just get it started. And you can see these are not all the same lengths. That's okay. That's the advantage to lashing. You can adjust your tension in the second phase of this. So this is just one more of those little steps that you gotta do, you know, but most people when they're thinking about weaving just think of the actual going back and forth throwing the shuttle through the warp, and a lot of people don't think about all these other little steps that are all part of the setup process. Now I'll grant you, if you're putting on a super long warp, you don't have to do this as often, and if you were to tie on to an old warp, well, you'd still have to do this part, I guess, because you'd still have to tension it. But this is just one of those steps. Almost to the end now. 4 more bouts to go. Last one. Should we aim you down a little bit? Ah, you're close enough. Okay, and then we'll just take a couple of wraps . Bring it through. And put a quick knot in it. Now we're tied on. Make a square knot there. Okay, so there's that. How does it feel? Really loose on that end. No surprises there. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. So now it's just a case of adjusting until it feels to me, by doing that, that all of them are about the same amount of tension. Close. The middle is just a little bit looser than the edges. So what are we going to do? We're going to go so by pulling on different parts of this, what you do is you tighten or loosen one particular bout by just a smidge. It feels pretty close. Let's tighten it up a little bit more. I think that's about right. Okay. The next step is to go under and tie up the treadles. We'll do that in a couple of minutes. Okay, gang, I'm trying an experiment with a camera to try and see if I can give you a different view of my weaving than usual. So, supposedly you're right above my head, looking down onto the loom. I'm hoping this works. I'm hoping This is not my usual camera, so we'll see how this works. So I've just put some string. This is the peaches and cream, or is it something like peaches and cream, sugar and spice, whatever it is you get at Walmart. It's the cheapest thread I can get, and I simply want to spread the these threads. You can see here how open it is between the bouts, but look, when I pull the reed to me, you can see that's the way I really want it to be, properly spread out even. So we're going to just use plain weave and go through. I don't know if that shows up real well, but let's see. You can see it's just putting in 4 rows. It now looks like I've pretty well spread that out fairly evenly. I'm going to do 2 more shots just to oops, don't get my finger caught over on that side. Grab my scissors, and there we are. The warp is now evenly spread out, and I'm looking at it just to be sure that I don't see any stupid mistakes in threading. That is easier to fix now than after I get into the... It looks like it's going to work. Okay, now I can get the real weft thread that I want to use for this project and try that out. Okay, gang, you've just seen me putting these first 6 rows of weft on to spread the warp, and you can see how it's done. Here's my experiment. Instead of using my normal bench that I sit on, I got the chair because it's narrower and the tripod fits around it, but it's also lower, so it's not as comfortable for me. I'm having to weave up higher than I like. But so there's the tripod, and hanging on that is a kind of a selfie thing for a cell phone coming down to here. And there's my old Sony pocket cam from about 8 or 9 years ago, which only takes 720p video, but that's enough to give you an idea what it is, and I can have it sitting right over top of the loom. So I may try using that again. It's a little awkward, but it works. Okay, gang, this is enough for this video. You saw me spreading out the warp using the real thick weft, and saw me slaying the reed and that kind of stuff, so that's enough for now. I'll do another video when I get to actually weaving this overshot pattern. I have woven about 1 inch of plain weave just to make sure it looks like it's going to be spread out properly, and about 1.5 inches of overshot, again just to see how it's going to look, but I'm not really into the full pattern of what I'm going to make these towels out of yet, so you'll get to see that when I actually do it. But for now, this is long enough. So give me a thumbs up if you like my videos. If you're not a subscriber but you like my videos enough to want to subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you the next time around on YouTube, whenever that is. Bye-bye.